Hello, Latina professional mamas. I'm Adriana Samuels, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us all. Today, we are going to be talking about the topic of your presence is the present. During the holiday season, we can understand that we might be looking around for the best gifts for our kids or families, but sometimes we just need to remember that us as individuals, that's what the holidays are all about. So I would love to introduce you guys to my guest here at Latina Professionals, Olga Navarro. I am so grateful that you are here with us. I please provide an introduction and give us a little bit of background. You guys, I'm so excited that she's here. Thank you. Go ahead, Olga.
Yeah,
Give
I'm
us a little
excited that you
information.
invited me. Thank you. Thank you, Adriana. And I'm excited to be here. And I have to say, you took me through memory lane, going back to when I had little kids, which I no longer have. So I'm excited to have the conversation. I'm Olga Navarro, and I am a retired 30-year-old working in corporate America and launched my own business a couple of years ago and fully invested this year. So I am the founder and CEO of Upscale Your Culture. We focus on executive coaching and consulting services, all things human. So I'm
Mm.
excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Olga. We're excited to have you. I know that, being a CEO, being a powerhouse woman, you probably can give us so much light as to juggling momhood, CEO, running so many different organizations and companies and actually killing it, because obviously your success proves that. So please tell us how you manage. How did you do it? What is the secret?
The secret was try not to go crazy, really. But no, in all seriousness, so I just, I just started working for myself a couple of years ago, as I mentioned. But prior to that, I worked 30 years in jobs that required a lot of myself. So I have three
Mm.
kids, and at the time they were very little, just like everything, right? Right now they're out of the house. But I can tell you, I can write a book about best practices and don'ts. And till today, I still have discovery with my young adult children about things I could have done differently. So how do
Yeah.
I do it? I really, one thing I can say is discipline.
Mm.
When my kids were 6, 11, and 14, I was going through a divorce. And I was also the first time in a regional role managing a global job with 3 global VPs all across the world. And it required a lot of me, right? And back in, I'm going to say it, back in the 90s, back in the 90s, things were different. Things are more, more amicable now for working women, I have to say. But
Yeah.
really, going through that and just managing all of these masters and also managing my home was extremely, extremely difficult, I have to say, at times. And what really helped me was discipline. Discipline.
Mm.
I had to reinvent myself because now I was divorced. My father's kids moved out of geography, so it was like I was all alone managing the kids. And basically, I had to acquire discipline that I did not have. Get up at 4:30 in the morning, cook dinner at that time, have breakfast, set them off to school, and just get this huge support system, which I do want to talk about later. But I have to say, I got to
Yeah.
start with discipline, Adriana, so things didn't fall apart.
Yeah. How did you manage that? I mean, I know I have no discipline. I know that's not my superpower by any
I
means.
didn't either.
Um,
I didn't.
I'm always like, when I try to make a plan, it just falls to crap. So, how did you manage that?
So I am not a morning person, and now I found myself without having my husband at the time taking care, helping me with the kids in the morning. And the mornings are always the battle, trying to get 3 kids of
Mhm.
different ages off to different schools because one was in kindergarten, the other one was in middle school, and the other one was in high school. So it's just kind of like it just driving them around in the morning. I got to work exhausted, but what I did do, and these are little hacks for mothers. I love
Mm.
watching the news in the morning, but I didn't have time. So again, back in the day, I bought this little under the counter television in my kitchen, and you just flip it. So I'm again back in the day, and I would just put on the news, and that sort of lifted me up. Put on the coffee, and there I'm starting to make dinner, and then breakfast, and then getting them up. And I have to tell you, I did that for a lot of years until my oldest, I trusted that she could drive the rest of the kids and whatnot. And the other thing was the support system. There is just no way, because then I was traveling a lot and I didn't
Mm,
have time to stay with the kids at night. And I am one of the fortunate, or I have to say unfortunate, but I'm not, it's not a pity party where I have no family other than my siblings. My parents are dead, my aunts, uncles, and my grandmothers. I mean, the kids grew up with just me and their dad, and then my sisters. And so I really acquired a support system from my neighbors, community in church, and my family. Building that community is absolutely critical for you to be able to be successful, because you can't do it by yourself. There's just no way.
yeah, it is
No way.
kind of impossible.
Yeah, no
And,
way.
and you had mentioned you did a lot of traveling as well. I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, I have to admit, like when I travel for work, I kind of get that guilt and I feel horrible, and because
Yeah.
I'm all about the night routine with them, saying their prayers, saying the I love yous, and all that stuff. So I felt I would have that guilt. So what was it like for you with your traveling with the kids, and what was the worst? What was how did you manage all that?
Yeah, guilt is number one on the list. I mean, there was a lot of guilt, and we did have a routine. Like every night, I would read to my kids. Till today, I
Mhm.
have books that are 30 years old, from when they were little. And the just at night, when you're traveling, I would call them at
Mhm.
night. That never missed. It never missed, even if I was, traveling internationally. Again, this is when they were little. I have other experiences when they were big, which, if there are any members of my community from where I used to work, they're probably saying, "Oh, this is older. She's talking about little kids." I know her as with big kids, but like my mom used to say, little kids, small problems, big kids, bigger problems. But as they were
Right.
little, I try to make sure that their schedule, saying goodnight, saying the prayer, reading the story, that those things stayed. So, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's what's going to matter. And I can tell you, Adriana, if I could go back in time, how some people say I would not do it again, because I am who I am today. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I would do a lot of things different. I will still be the person I'm today, just a better version, probably, lessons learned faster. And I think just managing that when they were little,
Mm.
for me, was really important, and having that one person to trust. And I feel like it was a godsend. My neighbor became my nanny. She became the person that when I got sick took me to the hospital. She became like my tears, my laughter, and
Oh,
then my sisters. My sisters helped when they could. I only had one living in Puerto Rico at the time, and she was extremely helpful with my kids. So again, you're not alone, and trying to do it all alone was one of my biggest mistakes also early in my career when I had my kids young. So I always tell young mothers, you have to create this community that gives you peace of mind. As a
yeah,
mother, as a parent, Adriana, you're always going to have that guilt. And there
yeah.
are ways to get out of that guilt as well, especially as they start growing up and then they start talking back to you and making you feel guilty. Because one thing is when they're little, like yours is 1 year old, they're 4, 6, they're little. They're not going
Yeah.
to try to make you feel guilty. They just want their mommy. But when they're bigger, they will try to manipulate you. And just trying to find that space where you feel it's okay.
Mm.
You have to be okay with it. I mean, there's just no other way to do that.
Wow, that is so. You've mentioned a couple of things that really resonated, with the guilt. Obviously, we all feel that way, and then I worry about the whole manipulation of time missed or not being there. And I know, like, even when the drop off for school, the PTA, there's a lot of different activities that during the day in the schools that I can't attend because of work. And I know that it can be an issue, more for me than the kids, right? But
Right.
I feel that sometimes, I'm missing a lot, you know.
Ye Yeah. Yeah, I can totally relate, and you and I talked about, this a little bit offline, but I think to your point, and trying to stay away from you making yourself feel guilty because you're doing the best that you can, and
Yeah,
that's my mantra. I adopted this mantra at the time. I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have at the time. That's
yeah,
it. I mean, you're human, and it's okay to project that you're human to your kids. I did not do that. I try to be this superwoman that when my kids got older, I remember one time I went, to the Virgin Islands with my oldest daughter now, She saw me in very relaxed way. You know, we're drinking, we're having fun. It's a different story now because they're older. And I got a little tipsy, and she says, "Mom, this is so great." And I said, "What? That I'm tipsy? I don't like this feeling because I didn't grow up drinking or anything." And she says, "No, you're human. You're human. You know, I thought you were a superwoman." And so it's okay to be vulnerable with your kids and try to figure it out as you go. But the one thing I can tell you is when you're there, be there.
Mm.
And I did not do that because, and again, today is even worse with the technology. Back in
Mm.
the day, I mentioned this to you again, giving up my age here. I had a BlackBerry. I had a laptop, obviously, but I had a BlackBerry, and I was always on my BlackBerry. And the story is the one I told this story to all of my teams. The last company I worked in, the last 20 companies 20 years I worked in companies, I've always told working young mothers that reported into me or worked with me this story. When you're there for your kids, be there. And this is an anecdote that I will always regret. I have two daughters, I mentioned, and a son. And my daughters were always into basketball. They played basketball since they were little, and just a very, international basketball. I mean, they were just phenomenal. The middle one was the center. So she didn't get to do a lot of 3-point shooting or anything like that. She was always guarding. So I went, of course, after school, after work, I went to the game, and it was sometimes they give games at night, and those are the ones you want to make sure you go to. And I went to this game, and I was in the laptop and in my BlackBerry, and I'm like always busy multitasking. Well, what happened?
Yeah.
My little daughter threw a 3-pointer, and I did not see it. She looked back at the bleachers, and she saw me in the BlackBerry. And when we got out, they won, by the way. When we got out, of the game, she said, "Mom, I just, you did not see me throw this 3-pointer." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to, fake it. Oh, I saw you, of course." She says, "No, you did not. You were in the BlackBerry." And forever,
Oh,
I will take that with me because it's not about quality. And we say this too much, I think it's taken advantage of. It's not about quality, it's about quantity. You want to make sure you're there, and your kids are going to appreciate if they're 4 hours, their attention is on them. It's not making them entertaining them with the TV now, with tablets, iPhone, all of this. I mean, it's really sad when you see this, right? You're in restaurants and whole families are all on the cell phone, and then they're just talking to each other when the food comes. You really, I mean,
yeah.
these are the things you're going to appreciate when they get bigger. These are the conversations you're going to have. So if I can tell everybody listening today, and I don't know how many people are on, Adriana, but if I can tell you one piece of advice is be present. Your present to your children is to be present, and they're going to value that more than the quality of time, than the quantity of time that you dedicate to the kids if it's not quality of time.
That's
Yeah,
so good. I
I think
think
that's
that's really important. Oh God, and you know what? I have to say, I know that must have been really painful, and I could see it, and I could hear it in your voice that was a lesson learned for you, and I appreciate your you being humble and sharing that with us, because that gives us an opportunity to think and to stop and realize that these moments are definitely precious. But I think, again, when I talk to so many women, and I have all these conversations, I realize that sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be
Mhm.
perfect at work, because maybe it's in our head that we have to work harder, we have to always be there, we can't stop, and that we sometimes forget that we have to be our CEO in our family as well. We have to be our executive in our home, and
Mhm.
that can be a struggle to be that for everyone in all shapes and forms. So I
Mhm.
thank you so much for saying that, and I think that, with knowing that, I would say that as we think about the holidays, right, and as we think about, these moments where family is so important, that we say to ourselves, okay, we're going to have to put down our phones, we're going to have to turn off our email, we're going to have to be present for these moments right now, and give ourselves a break, right? Because we know companies and organizations, you know they would drop us in a heartbeat if they needed to hit the bottom line, right? We're just a number.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's be honest. You're a CEO. If you have to let someone go, you have to let someone go.
Mhm.
And it's not personal. It's not because
Yeah.
they're not doing a great job. Sometimes it's just it's a revenue, and we gotta do what we gotta do, and move people out, so that way, we could save money as an organization and company. So we do that all day long as executives and professionals. So where's the solid foundation here, right? Is our families and our loved ones. So sometimes we're going to have to choose our battles, and sometimes we're going to have to say to ourselves, hey, work's going to take a minute, and I'm going to focus on my family. And I thank you for that. I thank you. With all your success, Olga, and again, I am so in awe with you, going to Harvard, and like, you just educated yourself, and you've really done so much. I'm in awe. For number one, I am in awe. And one thing I'd love to know is, with thinking about your routine. I know you said about these different routines that you need to get involved in. What would you say to a mom, right? That's you, maybe, but in the beginning, when you're being a CEO, like when you first started being a CEO, and as a mom, what advice would you give them starting out that wish you knew back then?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have? But really,
We got time. What would your advice be to your younger self in the beginning?
Some takeaways that I would tell everyone. And again, I focused a lot in the beginning of my stories on my younger children. My children are all adults. They're all out of the house. They live in the same state, but different from me. And they have a really good foundation. A couple of tips is, talk to your kids and or children and our young adults as if you would someone at work. Because one thing that I figured out through this process of raising 3 children is that we take our family for granted. Think about this. You're walking down the hall in the mall, you're shopping, and you bump into someone. You say, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. If that happened to you at home, you tell them, watch where you're going, stop running, stop, you know what I mean? And so we treat them like, we don't treat them like they're real people. We treat them like, when they're little, they're confined in this space that you can control. But eventually they're going to get out of that confined space, and they're going to go on their own. And they're going to have to make these very tough decisions. And I would have definitely talked to my kids more so that they didn't think I was a superwoman. I hid a lot of my insecurities because I didn't want them to see it. It's okay. You're human. At the contrary, they're going to say, oh, mom's going to need my help. I'm going to be there more for her, then mom's going to figure it out. So I would say that to be one of the things. The other thing is, don't let your professional life impact your personal life. Back in the day, so this is what I call reverse thinking. Back in the day, we would say, don't let your personal life impact your professional life, right? So personal life stays there, and you're a working woman. You want them to see you just as the same as everybody else, and you want them to see your professional life. Well, no, don't let your professional life today impact your personal life, because at the end of the day, you're going to have your family with you. It's not going to be the company you worked in. If they dropped you in a minute, in a heartbeat, you thought you were unstoppable and you were walking on air, and you had, with a lot of humility, you managed a lot of things, and you're doing all this great work, and you think you're just, they're never going to let you go. At one point, guess what? We all get older. We all get older. And either you decide to leave, or, someone decides that it's time for you to leave. And who do you have with you? So whatever you invested in those relationships with your children, it's what you're going to have. That's going to be your output 30 years down the road. I worked 30 years in corporate America. Now I'm working for myself. So one of the, the advice, some very quick ones, get reintroduced to yourself every day. Don't lose yourself in the process of your family. If you have your partner, your husband, that significant other, pay attention to that person first, because they were first before your children. And that doesn't mean my children will always, if I need to drop everything and go to one of my kids, I will be there. Trust me, I will drop everything. My husband, work, everything. I got remarried, thank you, to my life partner. But reintroduce to yourself so that when you leave that job, you're not looking for your identity. And that's one thing that happened to me. When I stopped working, I was always Olga from X, Olga X. You know, everyone knew me. Oh, Olga from X, Olga from. Now I became Olga Navarro. I don't have the from X. And now who am I? What am I? What do I do? I have so much to give. I want to give this knowledge to someone because I'd like to leave my little mark in the world. You know, when I'm gone, I'm not going to have, you know, I'm not going to be known like Princess Di, but I'd like to think that the little people that I impacted will remember me. And really quick ones, ask yourself always, is it worth it? So consider those words, because when you're making a decision, you always have to ask yourself what is worth it. And with this comes a very little puzzle that I always told my team and my kids and coaching now that I do. Life is, for me, it's like a tripod. So you have your family, your well-being, and you have your professional life. And that tripod, if one of those legs falls apart, the tripod breaks. And so anything that you could put into those three classifications, family, professional, and well-being, and make sure that you keep that foundation stable, because the storm will come, but if that foundation is stable, it will stay. And the last piece of advice is cry in the bathroom, not the boardroom. When I was growing up, you know, and I mean growing up in my professional career, those first years, and I was in this company for 11 years, those years when I got divorced, I mean, there was a lot of crying because at one time it was unbearable, you know, or the kid was sick, and now my support system can't go. Have a backup to your backup support system. And if you're really frustrated, cry in the bathroom, not the boardroom. Because at the end of the day, you're still proving yourself. And again, this was my experience. I'm not saying this is the way it is now. I think now there are more flex times. People are working from home. The pandemic brought so many wonderful things, I got to say, for a working mother. And it made us see that life could be different. But I didn't get those benefits. My kids were already old. You know, my kids were already out of the house. So for those of you that have young children, just try to put these, you know, take these little tidbits, because they're going to be very helpful for you as they're growing older. I know I said a lot there, a whole mouthful, Adriana.
Oh, that's a lot, Olga. And, you know, I think you're right. There's a lot of things we need to think about as parents and as even just as women and individuals, really having that tripod. I really like that because it's important. It really is. And I think sometimes we just don't think about it. We don't even acknowledge it. But I wanted to also, can you please give me some more information and give us, as the Latina Professional Mama Group, some more information about your company and how we can communicate to you, and if we want to, you know, learn more about what you do, how can we tell us a little about it?
Yeah. So working with people for 30 years, I love it. And that's something I always wanted to do. And I plan to do, you know, until I'm dead, because I love working with people, making them better. So after all these, you know, 30 years working in corporate America, I became an executive coach. I was already coaching, but I got certified, you know, because those give you another type of value in the industry. So I'm a certified executive coach and personal coach. I do personal coaching as well, and well-being. And I'm also a consultant. I do consulting work in terms of making organizations better, in helping leaders. And one of my niches right now is helping executives onboard to new roles or existing roles faster, and with tools that typically companies don't give you, right? Because if you get a promotion, they're promoting you because you're good. So they assume you're going to get it. So, but you're not. It could be very difficult, and you don't want to appear vulnerable when you got promoted. So I allow that safe space. And I have actually 2 executives that I'm coaching right now, and I allow them the safe space for them to try to figure it out with me and be vulnerable with me. So coaching and consulting, and it's upscaleyourculture.com. So my page, you can book an appointment. Again, I love working with people. I love making organizations healthy. So between executive coaching and consulting, I pretty much have my hands full right now, and I am blessed because I finally figured, and I'm still in the process, by the way, I'm a work in process. But I finally figured a way that I can contribute to society and leave a little mark on myself, and at the same time feel good about all the knowledge I acquired, and feel good about that I'm being productive, you know?
I love it.
That's about it.
I love it. And we'll definitely put that link on our page so that
Sure.
way anyone that would need your services can absolutely reach out to you personally, because I think that's fantastic. I know that when I have transitioned to different roles, I've kind of got lost a little bit and I didn't want to say anything. I don't think any of us want to think that.
Now you're the head pod, right? The honcho. You
Yes.
want to make they know, oh, I've got this, but you're crying in the bathroom like, I have no idea what I'm doing. What am I doing? And literally, I went through that because I went through that and I went through it alone.
Mhm.
I want to make others feel that they don't have to go through it alone. And I got to tell you, I get so much satisfaction out of it because I
Yeah.
live it. I truly live what I do. And I think it's just who I am. I came
Yeah.
to terms, it's just who I am, still finding my identity post corporate America. So I hope others find it faster.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you know what, Olga, I have to thank you again, because I think that your vulnerability is going to resonate with a lot of women. And I think that you gave us a lot to think about. And I'm so grateful that you did that. And I'm grateful that you took your time to meet with us. And I look forward to hopefully having you host again,
Yeah,
to come
I
join us
think
again.
fun.
And absolutely. And Latina Professional Mamas, I just wanted to to let you know something. I value this time that we have together. I value you all, and I hope you have value for yourself, and you take the time. I know we've talked about many different things about valuing yourself, giving yourself time, but during this holiday season, please, please, please remember what the season is about. And it's about family and your loved ones, and just rejoicing in those moments. So let's put it down. Let's promise ourselves some time and put it down. The phone, the computer. It's gonna
Unplug.
be there in the new year. It's gonna be there. It's still gonna be there, right?
Totally. Adriana, if I may, use the word unplug. Totally unplug. Your children will have the memories that you were present, not that
Mhm.
you were somewhere in La La Land thinking about, oh my God, in the new year, I've got all these things to do. Guess what?
Yep.
The new year's going to come with or without you. And
Yep.
if you can't make it to the new year in the current job that you're at, the job is going to continue without you. But
Absolutely.
family will stay with you. So give them time, treat them like if they were, think of them as new hires in your life and
Mm.
just treat them that way. Think of them as new hires and they're going to feel like, special. Make them feel special. Take time to do that. Ask their why and what's important to them. We assume that we know what's important to them, but it could be totally different, a whole new different thing. And you have 5-year-olds now telling you what they want and they don't want. They're much ahead of time again because of technology that back in, the 80s when I was raising my children. So take time to unplug.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know, I'm going to do it. I'm excited about it. I've actually taken I'll take the whole week off. I'm
Awesome.
completely unplugging for a week for around the holiday season. So I hope that everyone's able to can take some time off around this holiday season. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy holidays, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas, and a Happy New Year. I pray that each and every one of you enjoy the time with your family and loved ones, and each and every one of you really, really, really put some extra love on yourselves this year. Give yourself a presence of a breath. Give yourself the present of relaxation. Give yourself the opportunity to just be yourself. You just who you are. Just not the executive, not the professional, just you. And we all love you. We here at Latina Professionals, we're so grateful to have this community of women. And
Mm.
Olga, I thank you again for your time. And let's start this new year right. Let's remember that our presence is the present, right?
Our presence is the president. DM me if you want to talk further on the subject. Maybe we
Not,
do one for young adults. We focused on
oh,
the children today.
yeah, that's a good one. All right, thank you, everyone. We love you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Take care.
Bye
Be
bye.
blessed. Bye.